Definitely.
Yeah, Blake. Let's get out of here, Blake. Let's get out of here. T-Man, sniper.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. No, I know it's been a second. Haven't been back since the trade deadline ended. But don't worry, I've been watching the Hawks. I've been seeing our new additions. I've been seeing this team win 3 in a row as they continued that tonight. 112-106 over the Orlando Magic in Orlando. A very important win because this is one of the teams that was ahead of them in the standings. Now with this win, the Hawks have jumped Orlando. They are now in the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. Miami has dropped to 7 after losing to Boston, but the Detroit Pistons have won 2 in a row, and they're now in the 6th spot. So and the Hawks play all these teams coming up for the rest of the month. So very big month coming up, and we're going to get into all that on today's episode. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another Believe in Hawks episode for sure. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Obviously, comments down below about anything we discuss. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review, tell your friends about Believe in Hawks. You can watch it anytime. You can listen to it anywhere, available on multiple podcast platforms. So definitely appreciate all the support as we see this little push the Hawks are making after a tough end to January, but getting into February, especially after the deadline, finding some momentum, finding some things. And we're going to talk about what I've been seeing from the new guys and the team so far. But yeah, so Hawks now have won 3 in a row, as I've mentioned. Hawks playing better brand of basketball right now. The biggest thing, really, I think, is I know people panicked after we traded Hunter and Bogey. But the main thing was the Hawks knew what they were looking for when they traded those guys and what they needed to maintain and to maybe even improve. You know, in my last episode with David, we talked about how talent-wise, they may have not gotten better, but team-wise, they've gotten better. And you've kind of seen that these last few games. Obviously, Mo Gay, big contributions from him recently, clearly getting some more trust, a guy that you're just going to have to play, live with the mistakes, let him grow and learn, because this defensive rim protection is so important for this team right now, especially with Clint not playing. Then the new guys stepping into that role, doing well, Niang hitting threes, man kind of showing you what he can do defensively, cutting, the passing. Same thing with LeVert. Gave you a very strong offensive game tonight with 18 points. So you're seeing how everything's kind of coming together and why they found success. Now, obviously, Orlando's team, not really great offensively. We know that. They're not a really good offensive team. They've had injuries this year. But Paulo, as we saw tonight, can still hoop. Franz can still hoop. So they got guys who can hoop. They got guys who can compete at the highest level. And like I said, and every time the Hawks and the Magic play, it's always a very sloppy, slug it out game. Comes down to the end literally almost every time. And it did that again tonight. Hawks were able to make enough plays late to get the advantage and beat this team. So that was a really good win for them in a game where there's also major questions. Krejci and Larry Nance go out the game with injuries. First injury to Nance, bumped knees, didn't look good, had to be carried off the floor by a couple of players to get back to the sideline. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Is it a knee bruise? Is it something potentially worse? We're going to hope to get some results on that in the next coming days. Vic Krejci on the following next possession on a fast break, basically transition, and gets a dunk. Jonathan Isaac, very extremely dangerous, reckless play from Isaac. Fouls Krejci after he dunks the ball, and Krejci lands very hard on his back. He was holding his lower back. He made his free throw that he got from the flagrant, but could not return to the game. So obviously you wonder how bad could that back injury be, or whatever they could potentially say it is for Vic Krejci. Obviously 2 important guys to what they do. Now, obviously if you're the Hawks, you're much more better suited to fit those injuries. Could easily see if Krejci has to miss a couple of games. Quinn just going 9. He went 10 tonight, which was really good, because I wondered if they're going to go 10, and they did. So that seems like if they're at full strength, they're going to go 10 guys. I'm assuming based off what we saw tonight. But they could go 9. Just you don't add anybody. You just go with the same 9 guys. And then the question is, too, does Clint Capella play in the next game? He's been healthy scratches the last couple of games. I would have to assume they're trying to ramp him up before putting him out there because he hasn't played in a while. Landry Fields said at the press conference that, he is expected to be with this team and play, and he says this team that he has value to the team. So I'm assuming that he'll be the backup big and he'll help, especially because we're looking at the fact of Gay is going to be in the starting lineup moving forward. You don't want Nance and Niang out there usually because it's just not a great defensive front court for them at all. And so they were able to get away with it tonight because you're playing Orlando. They're not a great offensive team. But realistically, you probably need Clint in that situation just because Niang can still space the floor, and that can help with rim protection. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward with this team as well. But, overall, the Hawks, like I said, came out in this game. You knew it was going to be sloppy, a bit of an ugly game. You definitely saw moments of really good defense from this team. You saw moments of really good passing from this team, ball movement, creating some good looks. Like I said, the bench tonight was excellent. I think they outscored Orlando 52-24. I think it's actually 52-25. So obviously that was big to get that type of production from the bench. And, LeVert led the way, like I said, with 18. LeVert, Niang, and Mann both had 38 points combined. Like, the whole three of them had 38 points combined. And LeVert made a lot of big plays in this game. So he really showed himself. And going into, LeVert coming here, he was kind of going through a bit of a slump. He had a couple of zeros in the stat column for points. Came in, scored a little bit in the first game he played it, still working it back. But tonight he looked like LeVert the Hawks traded for him, what they expected out of him, which is a guy who can put the ball in the basket. And so, if you're getting that to lead your bench scoring and now returning to what the Hawks were when they went on that 6-game winning streak. They had really good bench scoring and then obviously had good defense on top of that. And then obviously, you get enough from everybody else and you win games. The last couple of games have been basically that. You're getting more bench scoring again because that was one of the biggest issues during the losing streak. They barely were getting anything from the bench. Barely. Outside of Hunter, when he was playing on the bench, they got nothing from the bench. And so now they're getting bench production again. Now you're playing better defense. That takes pressure off Trae and all of them. Trae didn't have a great night tonight offensively, but now he's able to have a night like this, and it's not dire straits where it's like we have no one else who can score the ball except you. So you're seeing the Hawks basically get back to what they were when they were winning basketball games, and that's what those trades meant to the team. Because let me break it down to you like this. I'll start with DeAndre Hunter. We traded DeAndre Hunter, right? He's had a fantastic season. I wish the best for Trae. I hope he finds success in Cleveland, except against us. And I hope that he goes on to have a long career in the NBA and makes it worth their while, right? Because Cleveland believes that's going to help him get over the hump. But here's the thing about the Hawks. If you think about the way the Hawks play basketball, ball movement is very important to Quinn, right? Shooting, important to Quinn. Defense, important to Quinn. He is you can tell if you can do other things than just score, he wants to use those skills because he wants that to benefit the team in those departments. DeAndre Hunter was primarily a scorer for us. He was a guy who could come in and give you buckets. Wasn't much of a rebounder. That's why you couldn't play him at the 4 for long stretches. He was a decent defender. He wasn't great. He was decent. You could trust him to play against bigger defenders. Obviously, they would give him some pretty big assignments. If there was a bigger player, obviously, Dyson maybe a little bit smaller. We could put DeAndre on him, right? But decent guy. Not elite, but decent. Outside of that, DeAndre really doesn't give you a lot. Like I said, not a great rebounder, not a great passer. It's one of those things where, like, when you made that move when you were the Hawks, you thought to yourself, we just really need to replace his scoring, which is why you got Chris LeVert. Because you feel like Chris LeVert can probably replace what DeAndre Hunter has been giving us. Obviously, he may not do exactly what DeAndre did, but he's capable of getting you 16, 18, 20 points in a game, like he did tonight, 18. And you're just like, if you can give us that, we've replaced DeAndre Hunter, basically. And on top of that, Chris LeVert is a better defender, a better cutter, a better passer. He's improved some areas of his game, for sure, in those areas, but he's also been able to do those things throughout his career. So you're now getting a more skillful player in return from DeAndre Hunter. Even though DeAndre Hunter was the bigger player and probably maybe even as the season is going, the better offensive player. You're getting a more skillful player and a guy who can replicate enough of the offense. So with that, let's go to Terance Mann. He was part of the bogey trade. And I'll get back to Niang in a second. Terance Mann is a guy who is not known as a scorer. He's not known as that. He's never been known as that in his career. Now, he's had some big offensive games. That can happen any time in the league. It's just, he's an NBA player. A guy who I think you could clearly see great cutter, attacks the rim, good touch, can hit a couple of threes, right? Pretty, decent offensive game. But you can see the defense. That's his calling card, defense. Really good defender. When you traded Bogey, you have to think about this year's Bogdanovic. You can't think about the previous year's Bogdanovic. This year, Bogdanovic was giving you below 10 points a game and no defense. Terance Mann can at least give you like that. He can at least give you what Bogey's giving you, plus defense, plus passing, plus even some rebounding at times, plus just everything else. He is, again, even though Bogey was a skillful player in his own right, Terance Mann has improved. They're willing to potentially lose what Bogey can give them offensively because they feel like they're getting a better defender, passer, cutter, all that. Terance Mann tonight gave you 12 points. 3 of 3 from 3, right? Which, realistically, if he's giving you that on a nightly basis, you're happy with it. And people talked about it, how his defense is. You now have a guy who can defend the ball kind of like a Dyson. Obviously not through the steals and deflections, but a guy who you can ask, hey, we need you to play against a really good offensive player. I'm very curious when they play the Knicks how he's going to look, because I'm sure they're going to ask Dyson to guard Jalen. And then I wonder if they're going to ask Mann at times to guard Jalen Brunson, just to not put all that pressure on Dyson and see how that looks. Because now you have the capability of throwing another guy like that on him. And Mann is a guy who's able to play and guard multiple positions. And you saw it on display tonight. So again, you're seeing Mann's value through these first couple of games. And the thing about both of them is they both seem like they will fit in with what the culture and the scheme of what Quinn wants to do flawlessly. Even with no practice barely, they fit in pretty well so far. And it really is just about chemistry, getting used to everybody, and then just playing basketball. They're NBA players. And then Niang. So Niang, right, I would pair him more with Mann. And what I mean by that is like, okay, the Hawks were a pretty bad shooting team, right? They weren't great shooters, great shooting team, right? Especially when one of the shooters you relied on was bad in Bogey this year. Niang is shooting 40% from 3. So now you're able to get a shooter to improve your shooting. You got 2+ defenders, 2+ ball handlers, 2+ cutters. And that's why I said, if you think about the way the Hawks play, they got better in terms of team basketball, even though they may have not gotten better in terms of talent, if that makes sense. And tonight, you saw that. Hawks had 29 assists tonight. Like I said, the Hawks want to be around that 30 assist night. That means they probably had a very functional offensive night if they're at around 30 assists. They shot basically 50% tonight. Shot basically almost 40% from 3. They've been much better at the free throw line. That's something to be underrated here. They've shot the ball better at the free throw line recently. That's been big. A little bit higher on turnovers tonight, 16, but for the most part have not had the chronic just 8 turnovers in a quarter type of thing going. And so you're seeing it right now with what they're doing. Getting back to the basketball that helped them win games with the guys they've brought in, because the guys they've brought in can play that type of way and do what that Quinn wants them to do. And so that's why they've been very valuable to this team, even though we lost Bogey and we lost Trae, because of what they are getting back. They clearly knew what type of players you wanted back to help your team. That's the thing about Landry Fields that I think he needs to deserve credit. And obviously it's 2 games, so I'm not going to make it seem like he's saved the season, because we still have to see how things play out. But he clearly said, okay. And to me, I feel like he had to have talked to Quinn about this. He was like, what kind of players do you need? Because again, everybody wants to get the big name and think that's going to fix everything. But sometimes that's not. And Quinn told him what he needed, and he got those players. And now you're like, okay. And the fact that he feels comfortable going 10, and that also was because Muhammad Gay has played well. Muhammad Gay tonight was getting some shots up early, though. Only finished with 9 this game, but had a block, 2 steals. You see the defensive impact Muhammad Gay is. Muhammad Gay right now is an NBA level defender right now with shot blocking. His offense still has to come. That's going to be the next thing for him. He blew another dunk tonight. Got Larry, I don't know who got to work with him on dunks. Can't be blowing dunks, man. Got to make those. But outside of that, Gay, it seems like they know, plays well with Okongwu, provides great weak side rim protection, and still allows the Hawks to space the floor, because now they can go 5 out. I've said at some point Quinn's vision for this team is to be everybody can shoot a 3. And right now, he literally basically played a lineup tonight where everybody could shoot a 3. Everybody was a threat from 3. And that's what he wanted. That's what he wants this team to eventually turn into. And like I said, Clint's contract's up after the year. We'll see what that looks like at the backup center position. But clearly, Hawks are getting good contributions from the other guys, and that's been good enough for them to win. So really, really good from that perspective for the Hawks as they continue to move forward and they continue to try to get themselves back up the standings, try to, make a run again to get into a good position in the playoffs. So let's look into the player performances for tonight. Trae Young didn't have the greatest game, right? 19 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. The Magic are a very tough matchup for Trae because they basically could throw 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" guys on Trae. And so clearly with Trae being a smaller player, he has to really, find openings for him to even take a shot. This isn't a situation where he's going against a 6'5", 6'6" guy, like 6'10" with long arms. That's not easy to shoot over if you're a smaller player. So Trae really had to pick his spots. So, but, struggled, like I said, from the field. 6 of 17, 1 of 8 from 3. Hit some big shots later in the fourth quarter to help them win. They hit some free throws down the stretch to help them close it out. But, like I said, Trae's going to have these games. Now, obviously, again, turnovers, 9 turnovers tonight. Very, very high turnover guy recently. Got to cut that down. Magic did a good job of applying that pressure and getting into lane, especially when you go against a long and lengthy team, especially the way they were calling the game tonight. They were calling the game very physically. They were letting Magic be very physical with the Hawks, which I think led to why Krejci got hurt, because, again, you did not officiate the game well to limit that. You just basically said the Magic can start kind of like throwing their weight around, and that can lead to sometimes that type of stuff happening. And that, like I said, led to some struggles for Trae. But, did just enough and let everybody in score for the Hawks. Dyson Daniels, 10, 6, and 4. Continues to, really play well. A lot of people have been discussing recently his contract. Like, what is he going to get paid for the Hawks? The debate is, Dyson does not deserve $30 million. Some people said 2025. Listen, Dyson is up for an extension. Hawks don't have to necessarily extend him this offseason. But people are like, oh my God, what is Dyson going to get? And listen, Dyson has shown improvement in his game. He's shown some of the offensive bag. We know the type of defensive is. We expect him to be a first-team all-defensive player. He's been on the boards more recently. He's having big rebound games. He's doing all, playing backup point guard. Dyson has just done so much for this team and all of the different things that he does. He has been so huge for this team. Huge. And, I mean, some people wonder, is he an offseason away from being a consistent scorer? The biggest thing for Dyson is if he can get that three-point shot right, which Glenn Willis made a great point about this. It's harder for guys with super long arms to become great shooters. He didn't say it like that necessarily. I'm paraphrasing. But he basically said it's harder with long arms for him to become a higher percentage shooter because it's just like, it's you know how sometimes when you have very long arm players, their shot looks a little awkward. It's like the mechanics have to really work when you have long arms. And Dyson has very long arms. So that's something that obviously will be a bit of a challenge for him, but not impossible. And something he'll continue to work on in terms of his overall offensive game as well. But Dyson just continues to be Mr. Hawk utility man. Just does everything. I mean, they ask him to do a lot. And he does it every night, playing high minutes with no issues. I mean, Dyson's just, he literally is the definition to me of the type of player you want in your team. Any team, really, of what he does for you. Kongu 9-7-2 tonight. Again, not the greatest matchup tonight. Really, they were able to kind of create, got a couple turnovers on tonight, able to create some problems for him underneath the rim, but still allowed them to have the roller. Obviously, Kongu has, for the most part, I think, been good at center since entering the starting lineup. And just was one of those things where, I mean, you play these guys again Thursday, I believe, because I think you play a back-to-back where you play Orlando Thursday on the second of the back-to-back. So, actually, that is cap. When the Hawks return from the All-Star break, actually, they played the Orlando again that coming out of that All-Star break. I forget the Hawks play their last game of before the break against the Knicks Wednesday. So we'll see if the Hawks can go into the break on another win before coming back out of the break and then trying to make a home stretch run. Ricochet 11, 2-4 tonight. I feel like he played fine tonight. Nothing crazy. Lower minutes tonight. I know a lot of people talk about his minutes. Why is he not playing a lot? Clearly, he's on a minutes restriction. That's what they've decided to do. That's how it's going to be. But again, to me, it's encouraging that he's giving you those stat lines in limited minutes. Because when they finally allow Ricochet to play more, like 30 minutes a game, you'll probably start to see these stat lines on a more consistent basis. And now his averages will be like 13, 14 points, whatever many rebounds, whatever many assists. And, like I said, you've seen him play better. He's a guy who hasn't turned the ball over. He turned the ball over still not at all tonight. I think he's been doing all this with just taking care of the ball and just playing within the system and doing what he needs to do. Muhammad Gay, like I said tonight, taking a lot of shots early, it felt like, but you see the defensive impact. Clearly, it seems like they made a decision to let Gay stay in the rotation and be a starter. So I'm really excited to see how this goes because, I mean, like I said, if Gay kills this man, he'll have a great opportunity to be the start for the backup for next year. And the Hawks go 10 with Jalen. And now you have rim protection coming off the bench and a guy who's super athletic and can stretch the floor when Jalen comes off the floor and can maybe continue to apply pressure. And then it may be interesting if they want to even run this lineup, if they ever want to run a Gay, Jalen Johnson lineup at times. But that's future thing. LeVert, 18 points tonight, made a few big plays tonight. He had some big threes. There were times, man, Hawks down 2, down 3. LeVert comes up, hits a big shot. And that's why LeVert's here. LeVert is a certified scorer at this level. And if I'm glad that hopefully gets him out of the slump he was in before coming here. And he gives us this. I mean, can't be mad at Chris LeVert. Like, listen, it's going to be interesting with the Hawks right now because a lot of these guys are on one-year deals or expiring contracts. But if they play well enough, I'm sure there's going to be discussions. Do we bring them back? It literally just depends on what the Hawks' plan is this offseason. And LeVert could be a part of that. Niang 8-4-1 tonight. Struggled a bit for the field. But again, the spacing is why he's here. He's done some good things. Really happy about what he's been doing. Only hit 1-3 tonight, but like I said, veteran guy. We've said he basically is going to be Gallo for this team. So, good stuff from him. Nance 8 points tonight before he got hurt with the knee injury. We'll have to see what happens with that. Obviously, as I've mentioned, they have some center, got some guys they can come in for him. Clint, hopefully, if the situation's cool, or Barlow. Those are your two guys you can put in his place. Krejci 8 points tonight before he got hurt. Hopefully that's not too serious. Hopefully he can get back soon. Like I said, I could see him cutting the rotation down if he can't play just to 9 guys. But clearly Krejci has deserved a starting, or not a starting, but a rotation spot for this team. And then Terance Mann, 12 points tonight. Just 100% from the field tonight. Great defense. People are going to fall in love with Terance Mann. Y'all fell in love with Dyson Daniels. Y'all are going to fall in love with Terance Mann. I guarantee you that. I loved him that we got him. I love Terance Mann's games. But that's that game tonight. Hawks win 112-106. Now, before we go, we got to talk about Trae Young. Trae Young getting NBA Offensive Player of the Week in the Eastern Conference. Well, actually, yeah. Player of the Week in the Eastern Conference. Joker got it in the West. So, big week for him. And also, with the injury to Giannis, Trae Young has been selected as an all-star replacement and now will make his 4th all-star game. So big congratulations to Trae Young. I know a lot of people were upset that he got snubbed. I was one of them. Glad he's finally getting his due. Shouldn't have to keep getting him through injury replacements, but whatever. But obviously big stuff from him. Happy about what he's doing. Trae Young really carried the team a week ago. 3-1, 30 points a game. Me and Trae Young. So really happy for Trae. Glad he was able to get to the All-Star game. Glad he's getting that honor. And we'll continue to see him continue to lead this team moving forward. So I think that's about all we got for today's Believe in Hawks podcast. Appreciate you guys for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review, tell your friends about Believe in Hawks. If you want to follow me on Twitter to keep up with all my Hawks takes, follow me at Bricey_2K, BRICEY_2K. For all Hawks takes during the games, as I try to tweet during the game. Sometimes I'm locked into the games and I'm just not tweeting that much. But sometimes I'm analyzing, I'm putting out stuff. So big stuff there. Hawks get a big win tonight. Bench comes up really big. They play their last game before the All-Star break against the Knicks. Hawks trying to finish this break on a 4-game winning streak. Hot momentum before coming back out and playing Orlando, where they have a big stretch playing Orlando, Detroit, Miami. 3 teams that are in the race for the 6th seed with them. They're playing all of them coming out the gate of the All-Star break, and so we'll have to see how they are able to rise to the challenge, but they got to get through the Knicks on Wednesday, and obviously I'll be here giving you full recap of that game when it happens. This is your Believe in Hawks podcast. It's your boy, Bryce Lewis. See you next time.